how the Quran emphasizes, peaceful, compassionate, affectionate relationship between couples, right? And if they if they have to be in difference or disagreement, they have to find ways to resolve their differences. If differences still persist, then they can come to the an option which, according to the hadith, God doesn't like, but you can still do it without punishment, without the punish, So and that's the last resort. Yeah, divorce is the last resort when marriage cannot be managed to be assumed. So which is a good way because it allows the couples to renew, to think about their relationship, and if time comes and they can find new partners, then they can remarry either with the previous couple or the previous partner or the new partner, right? So we talk about divorce, and we talk about also inheritance. We talk about inheritance, how the Quran divides inheritance. Son receiving as twice as the daughter, right? And then we kind of discuss about the context of it. Why it's not like 50-50 if you have son and daughter. And we talk about son would be father, would be husband, who will be more responsible for the family, so they need some means so that they can support their future, family. While the daughter would be receiving anyway from their future husband. That's why they receive less in terms of the quantity, right? So that kind of context is very important. So it's not about discrimination, but it's about justice or fairness according to their own positions in the family and the society, right? So we talk about that, yeah. So family, women, and we talk about polygamy, right? A little bit, yeah. If you remember about that, how the Quran allows. Remember, it talks about men, not necessarily to all women, but to widows. And the context of the Quran was regarding the orphans. Yeah, during the times where you have war. So during the times of war, many women will lost their husbands and they don't have protection. So husband or men at the time who have more, they are responsible for making relationship with the widows, and that's the idea is to protect them, yeah, not for sexual desire, not for other reasons.
Yes.
So polygamy is only under certain circumstances, under conditions. Okay, so that's what we discussed a little bit earlier on how the Quran also presented, not necessarily absolute thing. Yeah, it's not an absolute thing. It's very very relative, depending on the conditions.
I know. Now maybe not so much. Still, I think it is once, like our age, once you get divorced, it is very very hard for the women to remarry. If they have a children, our age when I was younger, almost impossible. Nobody would even look at them. And Quran says only get the half or get less money or something.
No, that one is for not the widows, but that's in the case of the daughters if they are the daughters.
Oh.
Okay, when your parents die.
Oh yeah, right.
Okay, so that's quite different condition. But that's good. That's good. If the widows could not find partners at some point, well, of course it's quite hard. You're right about that. But the most important thing is they are given the possibility, they are given the encouragement to remarry, yeah, rather than discourage. Because in some cases, culturally, and it's also religiously, you cannot remarry. In some cases, yeah, after divorce, you cannot remarry. Okay, so you do have some cultures that emphasize that. But in Islam, in the Quran, we talk about that remarriage is encouraged because you need protection, you need also your children, to protect your children, and so on and so forth. So we don't already discussed that, right? And before we talk about nature, yes, in Quran, we talk about mystical, spiritual interpretation of the Quran. So we cover quite a bit, yeah. Today The topic is war and peace. Yeah?
I wrote on it. I wrote a lot of it.
All right? So, and it is quite, contextual today, right? Today, it's something happens and that's also has impacted, the lives of so many people now, right? Not only what we call as in the Middle East, but also people here in the US, everywhere in the world. The global economy might be impacted, right? The price of oil might be impacted. It's a lot that's going on. So let's talk about how the Quran addresses questions of war and peace. Yeah? All right. There's a lot of literature about this. Okay, if you're interested in this topic, I can give you a bunch of literature, a bunch of articles, books in any language. So this is quite well covered in the scholarship of Islam and also in the Quran. First of all, terminology. Yeah, terms. So three key terms here. I know this is a translation of Arabic: Salam, Jihad, and Qital. Yeah, three major terms which we have to differentiate: Salam, Jihad, and Qital. And we have to understand these terms in the roots, in the linguistic roots. For example, Salam, I'll talk about that later, but this is the first one, terminology. Then we have to trace the context and evolution of, remember the Quran in Mecca and then in Medina. So we have to understand the context of the use of the terms from within the context of revelation itself. And then jurisprudence. Jurisprudence or legal discussion and scholarship and rulings would come much later. It's not within the context of the Quran. Right? So when we talk about, let's say, medieval notion of salam or peace and international relationships or diplomacy or even state, like nation state, now that's very much medieval, pre-modern, and modern constructions, not the Quran. Yeah. So in other words, when we talk about just war or holy war or anything about war, is from within the context of jurisprudence, legal tradition of Islam, not the Quran, not the time of the Prophet himself. But of course, the legal jurisprudence interpretation are based on the Quran, based on the life of the Prophet, based on how he interacted and also engaged in wars. Yeah, also. Okay. All right. That's a jurisprudence. So that's why you now have rules of engagement and also what is called ethics of war. Yeah, the ethics of war. If you study Christian theology, you would know about ethics of war. And also you would understand about the notion of just war, as well as also holy war. So let's talk about that later on. But remember, we have to place this within their own context. And then modernity, especially in the contemporary time where many Muslims, organizations, states, leaders, activists would use these terms, jihad, qital, and even salam, for their own purposes, in their own modern contemporary context, within their own particular political, economic, social, cultural circumstances, right? So now you have to understand that. Keep in mind that, okay, we cannot just, overgeneralize jihad as if like it's something one monolithic thing. Yeah, understand jihad. How about the Quran? Within the Quran, and you have also the early commentator of the Quran who also would interpret jihad in their own context. At the medieval time, and then you have Muslims today. So you have to also understand that. That's really the key thing before we engage the discussion. So again, salam. Now we talk a little bit one by one. Salam, you can say peace. Not exactly. It's just it's an English translation of salam as peace, but not exactly, because peace in the Western understanding of peace. How would you define peace? Anybody?
No.
Not war. Okay, what? What else? What peace? When we say peace in the West, in America, what else?
We don't,
Peace? Huh?
we don't bother you, you don't bother me.
Okay. All right.
Not war. Yeah.
What do you think? What comes to your mind when peace is mentioned?
Everyone getting along.
Everyone getting along. Okay. So no war. Everyone get along. You do whatever you do, but I do whatever I do, but we don't. Right. Jetty, what do you think? Peace.
Sound same on everybody else. No war.
No war.
No conflict.
Mm. Okay. No conflict.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Okay. So that's good. That's all. But do you think that peace means that you do nothing, or just like it's just an absence of war? Is it the only one?
That's the way you're brother.
It's most of the times, right? Most cases, right? But peace also means that you still act something. You don't necessarily be absent and doing nothing. You can do something and still peace. So in other words, it's not necessarily like like a situation where there is nothing, like a silent thing. It's not about silence. It's not like just emptiness. Peace, there is it's an active thing. That's the point. Yeah, peace is an active thing. So in other words, you have to work for peace. Yeah, you cannot just leave things and then peace. Yeah, peace is always an active verb. Even though it's a noun, yeah, as-salam, but it's also an active verb. So there's an effort. There's